Hello, kittens. Welcome back to Ascend Legal 101. I'm Ramona, and I'm so grateful that you've come back to have another conversation with me. Today, I'm connecting with you on a beautiful spring day through our podcast platform that you can find in all the places your favorite podcasts live. If you prefer YouTube, we'll make sure we meet there as well. Today, they're filming a movie right outside my office. So if you hear cut or action, I wish it was me, but it's not. If you enjoy this conversation, please like it, share it with your people, subscribe, follow, leave us a review, all that good stuff so that we can continue to be connected. And if this conversation is way too much for you, then feel free not to return. We're going to finish strong in March. Thank you for taking time to explore the many aspects of mentorship with me. Being a trusted mentor is something that's really important to me. And even though that's the case, I thought today it might be fun to debrief on a recent adventure where I totally blew it as a mentor and trusted ally. Total fucking fail. So the backstory is that I was invited to speak at an aviation event that was focused on women and girls in aviation. And I actually did publish the speech that I gave on last week's episode, so feel free to zip over and take a listen. At the front end in my preparation, I was very clear with my intention on the foundation or influence I wanted to have and what I wanted to leave with these young women. I had every intention of leaving them with something that had everything to do with empowering the next generation. I wasn't there to tell my story. And in fact, I didn't really tell my story. I was there to use my own sort of unique understanding and experience to expand their ideas of what is available to them. And what I wanted them to take with them were these points. The first is that all of you, but in particular, these young women, belong to an incredibly supportive community full of consistent, active leaders, willing and able to show them the way. I wanted them to know that they are powerful and to know how to feel and be fully empowered in their own experience. I wanted to be able to look them in the eye and say, you are valuable. And I was talking about money. So I wanted to talk to them about asking for what they were worth. I wanted to say that they had a lot of options, lots of them, that the sky is not the limit, it's just the beginning, and that they were right on time. Here's the debrief. I arrived in good time to the event, thanks to the lovely and talented Jessica, who picked me up on the other side with her friends and her trusty blue car that has a name, but I've forgotten it. And she took charge of my sort of ever-changing last-minute travel plans, even though that was not hers to take on. And she took good care of me. She was also a speaker. So I love our community and how we all take care of each other. But that was probably sort of the first place that I went wrong, because I was super fatigued from late night preparation and from getting up at 4:30 in the morning to travel. And I clearly hadn't taken care to make arrangements that were appropriate for the level that I had intended to show up at. And, I was going to say my arrangements were not appropriate for my age. And really, that's the truth. But after today, I'm not going to say that anymore, ever. I did deliver my address to a very engaged group of women and men. And although I likely talked a little bit slower and had a look at my notes, which I never normally have to do, the people there appeared to be forgiving with my delivery, thank God. In the discussions afterwards, however, I noticed that along with everyone else, we've sort of gotten used to human interaction by Zoom during this pandemic, and I've forgotten how to people. Peopling in person is no longer, or was no longer, a skill that I possessed. And in some ways, I felt like I was sort of waking up out of a dream. We did a lot of talking in groups through masks. And in some cases, I wasn't following conversations that well. And I realized I wasn't listening to listen. I was sort of listening to respond. And because I wasn't listening in a way that was sort of in integrity with my original intention, my responses were sometimes out of context and kind of out to lunch. In some cases, I was talking to younger women about subject matter they had zero frame of reference for. So I probably sounded just a little bit crazy. In a couple of years, I know they'll say, oh, that's what she was talking about. But right now, really not helpful. One young woman there told me her story, and I'm so thankful that she trusted me enough to tell me the truth. I was personally embarrassed by her first instructor's behavior, and I was super pissed off about it. I was triggered by my own past experiences with the same group of people. And to be honest, I quickly went through my own sort of personal timeline to see if I was in leadership when the stupid shit show was going down with her. And I wasn't, just so you know. Although it was her story and experience. And I don't want to take anything away from her story and experience because it's hers to tell. But I really related to how she always felt like she was alone, because I did too. And I wish I would have known that part of her story sooner. Although I'm not sure I would have had the bandwidth at the time to have truly heard her. But I hope she doesn't feel like I was not supportive of her. In this event, I think the place where I felt I was most out of integrity was that without really thinking it through, I left the event in the middle of it and then came back when the next speakers were going to start. I feel I could have taken that time in between to connect with the young women who had just heard me speak, or the women who were working at the event, who I hadn't had a chance to see earlier. And that was a real missed opportunity for me. I didn't get to hear their stories. I didn't get to talk to them about their experiences. And that was sort of the whole point of showing up in the first place, right? To connect with them. It feels now like it was all a little bit of a fail, but the good kind, because I needed to see how I was really presenting to the world right now. And I needed to really see how fatigue plays a role in how I show up. And I have never acknowledged that before. I'm a burn the candle at both ends kind of girl. And most importantly, it was a huge red flag for me that I was still dragging around the past with me. I was packing around all this resentment and I was leaking oil right there, man. Starting that night, not only did I dissect the whole experience in my mind and in writing, I got pretty real with myself, and I decided that as a mentor or leader or somebody asked to appear or speak at an event, I can do better. So after a ton of self-reflection, I could see I was not at the place where I could see humanity in the people who I felt were dishonorable from my past. I just wasn't there yet. But I have resolved to myself and in writing, and now to you, kittens, that number one, I resolved not to be dragged down by the dishonor of others anymore. And that's a pretty big deal because being an honorable person is important to me, and I don't always act with honor, and I'm pretty hard on myself if I don't. And at the same time, I lose respect for people who are dishonorable. So quite quickly. So that's a piece of my homework. And I've resolved not to be dragged down by the dishonor of others anymore. I've resolved not to let other people's weakness of character continue to harm me, because then that just turns into my own weakness of character and I continue to harm myself. And that's 100% not okay. And I'm not going to take that on for those people anymore, ever. I'm sure I'll be tested. At some point, I'm going to have to take responsibility for my part and how I let these experiences go off the rails. And, you know, I thought I already had, but clearly I have not. And at some point, I'm going to have to let it all go. At some point. Right now, I resolve to continue to show up to do the work. So what was the bright side? Some of these young women, particularly my travel mates, were witnessing my undoing in full color, and they were kind enough to provide me with incredible grace that I needed to come to my own awareness of my own behavior and shortcomings. I do hope no one walked away feeling unseen or unheard by me, but that's certainly a possibility. You know, I was asked to speak at this event to inspire young women in aviation, and I came away completely inspired by them. In my own experiences, I've had plenty of people betting against me. With those young women going forward, I want to be the person who's betting on them. I want them to be confident that I'm going to show up and I'm going to be the person who's betting on them, and that they can be fully empowered in their own experience and speak their truth to the fullest. That's who I want to be for them. I had to forgive myself for my part in contributing to the continuation of an organizational culture that perpetuated misogyny and was generally quite dysfunctional. And that had set some young women up for failure from the outset, as evidenced by my friend's story. I had to forgive myself for not showing up in full integrity at this event. I bet some people there probably didn't even notice, but I sure did. And I've had to remember that no one else is requiring of me what I am requiring of myself. But even so, I am committed to doing better. I thought I was going in as the teacher, but you know, as always, I was the student. I hope some of our conversations around mentoring have sparked something in you, and I hope they've given you some time to reflect on your own experiences, both good and bad. And my real secret wish is that they've sparked something in you that makes you want to take a chance on being a light for someone else. April's intention is going to be super fun. We'll talk about it next week, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's my birthday month in April, and I think, you know, we're going to speak some truth all over the place. So I feel like I wish my evil laugh would kick in right now, but I don't know how to do that on command, but it'll be really fun. So we'll talk about that next week. And until then, thank you again for joining me on Ascend Legal 101. And remember, kittens, you are cleared for takeoff.